Hello and welcome to Adobe Live. Thank you so much for tuning in today. If we haven't met yet, I'm Jordan Danae Ellis, and I'm here as always with Andy Lambert. Hi, Andy.
Hello, Jordan. How are you?
Good. I'm good. I'm excited to be here. It's been a while, so we'll see how
Mm.
rusty we are, but we'll learn fast. Yeah, thanks for tuning in today. Well, Andy and I love talking about online marketing and social media, especially for kind of like, well, I guess businesses of all sizes, but we both come from a little bit of a scrappy side of online marketing. So if you're doing it yourself or with a very small team, hopefully we can help you out with that. And we both specifically work on Adobe Express. So we're diving into that too. But before we get started, today is a little bit of a recap of what's new in the world of social media. In the past, it's the summer, so time is goofy. In the past, I don't know, 2-ish months, month and a half, couple weeks. I don't know what time frame you're pulling from, Andy.
Well,
Um,
because so much happens. This is just through the course of July so far. So even
okay,
though we're
perfect.
2/3 of the way through, there's a lot to cover, but we'll come to that in a second.
Okay, great. Yeah, so before we get started, let's introduce ourselves. I'll start. I'm Jordan. I've been at Adobe for actually almost exactly 3 years next week,
Wow,
which is super
gone
exciting.
quickly.
Yeah. And so for the past 3 years, I've worked at Adobe, specifically on Adobe Express. So if you have any questions about Adobe Express, either live or afterwards, if you're watching a replay, please feel free to ping me. I'm at Jordan Danae Ellis everywhere. And before that, why I'm so passionate about this subject is I ran my own business for going on, yeah, like 13 years with very little budget, very little experience, like with, professional training, just kind of making it up and looking on YouTube and searching for what I was doing. So I'm very used to wearing all the hats. And honestly, I really wish something like Adobe Express had been here when I got started because it would have made my life a lot easier. So that's my little background. And then Andy is a very nice, we have a good like two sides of the coin bringing different experience here. So tell everyone a
Mm.
little bit about you, Andy.
Yeah, we'll do it. And if we've not yet met, I'm Andy, and my whole career has been in social media. And yeah, it's fair to say that I wear the nerd badge with pride about social media. And the reason for that is because I've spent most of my working career in startups, and most specifically building a product called Content Cal from 2016 till 2021 when Adobe bought us. So Content Cal, for context, was a social media planning and organization and publishing tool, which has been built into Adobe Express, which Jordan will touch on in a second. So in building social media technology, you kind of need to know the trajectory that the social platforms are going in, even though it is kind of a bit of a mission impossible, it's fair to say, because they do change regularly. So that is the whole reason that we put these sessions together, is that online marketing, social media specifically, is incredibly powerful. It has made, well, it's helped Jordan scale her business, and it has been the making of my career and many millions of others
Mm-hmm.
across the world. The potential in social media is phenomenal, but it's also phenomenally easy to get overwhelmed with, like,
Yeah.
oh, what do I need to do now? How many hashtags do I use? What's the best time to post? What content works well on Instagram? So many questions. So we're here to get rid of all of the nonsense and noise. We don't profess to be gurus or experts. We talk through honest learned experience, and we talk through like research and data to really help you make like realistic, practical, informed decisions. Because the great thing is about like Jordan and I's context is that we've been there. We haven't had massive budgets to spend. We know
Mm-hmm.
that we haven't had unlimited resource. We're just trying to make it work and build our brands using social media. So the idea of this session is to help you understand what's happening, where the opportunities, and equally know some of the things that you don't need to do. So basically sit back, grab your favorite drink, and then, feel like over the next 45 minutes, you'll be on top of what's happening in the world of social. That's our promise to you over the next 45 minutes. But anything you'd add to that, Jordan, before we crack on?
No, just this is recorded, so if you're watching live, you can definitely come back to anything. It might be a lot of information, so you can rewatch anything. And if you're watching the replay, feel free to screenshot anything that you want to look at more. Feel free to message Andy and I have any questions. And to everyone in the chat, I see we have Andrea, Fiona, Abdul, Tiago. Please feel free. I'm manning the chat, so if you have any questions live, we'll answer as many as we can. And with that, I think let's dive in, yeah?
Yeah, let's do it. I think the best place to start really is looking at what we got going on in Adobe Express, because we continue to build out new features in the social media tools in Express. So why don't you give us a bit of a review of some of those, Jordan?
Yeah, so this is Adobe Express. There's a mobile app too. There are tons of videos from both Andy and I and a lot of creators on the Adobe Live YouTube channel. So if you're interested in more about Adobe Express, definitely we have some resources for you there. But yeah, this is the homepage if you've never seen it. And what we're going to focus the most on today is the content, social media content. So I wanted to show you where the content scheduler is if you've never seen it. It's right here on the left. There are some new things. So we start a lot of our videos this way, but if you've seen them all and wanted to just know the updates, there are a couple new things, and Andy, let me know if I skip any. But in general, this is where you can post your content. If you've used a social scheduler before, it should be very straightforward and easy to use. You can manage connections and connect your accounts. You can connect up to 3 for all of the social platforms. So for those who have asked for that in the past, that's available now, which is super exciting. And in general, like if you're creating something from Express, you can schedule it directly from your project, or you can just hit this plus sign and add a new post or a new draft post. So I'll show a little bit about what that looks like. And also, Andy and I love talking about this. So we're actually, we have a ton of videos about like drafting posts, but as Andy goes through also what's new in social, if there are any posts that you're like, oh, I would like to post about that, it's a nice way to just write yourself a little bit of text reminding yourself what you want to post and when. So July looks a little chaotic because I use it. So these are my actual posts. But I wanted to show, this is brand new. These sort of like events, I guess, is that what you call them? Like events and holidays? Calendar events. So you can toggle this on and off. Am I right?
Yeah, in the filters section, just by week and month.
Thanks. Yep, I knew it was here. Right here. If you don't want to see those, you just want to see your own posts, you can turn them off. But it's nice. Our team puts them together to help you know what's coming up. So especially if you like doing, relevant content to the rest of the world. And the cool thing is you can see the Adobe Express templates that we have as well. So if you want to create something for any of these events, we just make it a little bit easier for you. So the next one is the Olympics. So those are some of the new things, but I wanted to show also what an organized calendar looks like, especially using those draft posts. So for example, this is like if you have a repeated or like bucketed schedule and calendar, this is a really nice way to use draft posts to say like what type of posts you want. This Bond, Educate, Showcase, Tell is something that Andy and I have talked about in past videos. You can definitely see if you're interested in like how we like to set up our social schedules, and we're also going to be talking about that in our next video as well. But just wanted to show off what it looks like, a very organized version of this. You can move things around. You can decide, like, basically give yourself these prompts and then kind of fill in the blank with the actual post and then edit to your heart's content. So that's my little 5-minute update on Scheduler. Did I miss anything?
Nope, that's perfect. It's a real nice way to stay organized. And yeah, lots more still coming. And I'd love to hear from anyone in the chat because that's a feature that I work on directly. So if anyone's
Yeah.
got any comments or thoughts, or I wish scheduler could do X, let us know in the chat, because yeah, we're always listening and always wanting to add more stuff. But yeah, that's a big step forward for organization and planning, and I think that's a critical part of doing social media well. That we'll talk more in the next video. But for today, let's stay on topic and let's focus on what's happening in the world of social. So
We actually have
cool.
a question
Oh yeah,
before you even get started, which is related to this.
go on.
But John is asking, what's the best day to post? And also kind of specifically asking, like, if there is a holiday, sometimes that means there's so many posts like around that. So like, does your stuff get lost? Is it good to post anyway? Should you wait? What are your thoughts?
Really good question. So let's address the holidays and the kind of national day thing, like you were just talking about. So it's a double-edged sword, really, if I'm honest, national days, because one, in Express, it's great that we're helping you with the ideas for your content when you know a certain thing is upcoming that you might want to create some relevant content around. Take Olympics, for example. So whilst that's very useful, there will also be lots of content around the Olympics. There'll be lots of people searching for it, but there'll also be lots of competition. So I think really it just, the way of weighing this up from a business perspective is like, one, does that national day, like take the Olympics, for example, is it relevant to your brand? Number one, do you have a point of view? Do you have something interesting to share? That's like number one. If you do, then you absolutely should share it, because people will be looking at hashtag Olympics, for example. That it will be trending without a doubt, but there will also be lots of content around it. But because Jordan and I's focus is always about organic content, that's an opportunity there, and it's still a good thing to try and do if relevant. And if, you know, let's say you run like a fitness business, you know, maybe you're a personal trainer, definitely do it. It's relevant. It gives you a bit of a higher chance of your content being seen, and we've got nothing to lose, really. So I would suggest it's a wise part of a strategy. The second part of the question, or was actually your first part, which related to the best days, best times to post. So I'm going to share what general best practices based on like user research and data, because I spend a lot of time looking at this, but also just know that this will vary hugely depending on who you are and your audience, right? So if you're selling to or marketing to working mums, you'll have a different perspective to, you know, if you're selling to another group of individuals. So always think audience first and think about the behaviors of your audience. However, to answer the question, typically the middle of the week, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday are the best times to post, because that's where peak engagement is. So Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday is peak engagement. And typically the best engagement happens between 9 and 12 a.m. Well, 12 p.m., but the mornings, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. That's pretty common across all platforms, and that's independent of time zone. I'm in the UK, as you can probably tell from my accent, but that is, it will be the same whether you're on Eastern, Pacific, whatever. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, mornings is best. There's a couple of outliers here, just worthwhile bearing in mind. TikTok tends to be a bit better in the evening. 6 p.m. to 9 is actually strongest on TikTok, again in the mid weeks as well. So that's the only outlier, but TikTok still does perform well in the mornings as well. So that gives you hopefully a bit of guidance as well. But just know that just because that's where we see peak engagement, it also means that there's a lot of volume of posts too. It's further to the point around like Olympics, is it good or bad? It's a double-edged sword. There's more people on social at those times, so you do have more of a chance to be seen, but you're also going into more competition. So occasionally, like I post on LinkedIn at the weekends, because if there is something a bit more light-hearted that I'm posting about, it's a great opportunity for me to post where there is a lower competition. So basically, no golden rule, but hopefully that some of that guidance helps you. Sorry for the long answer, but it's an important one.
No, that's great. And I feel like we get asked a version of that in most of the streams. So nice to just start off with an answer. So thanks for that.
Exactly. No worries at all. All right. Cool. We're going to start with some data and some trends, and then we're going to go network by network and look at the specific updates that are happening. I'm just checking myself for time because a lot of stuff I get carried away, get very excited about this. So, Jordan, you can keep me honest with time.
Perfect.
So let's look high level. This is a really nice way of looking at what's going to be growing in the future. So downloads don't necessarily mean more users, but it does mean future potential of more users. The higher a app is in the download charts, the stronger its forecast of growth is going to be. And the reason that matters to us is because more attention, more eyeballs means more opportunity for our content to be seen, quite simply. So Instagram has overtaken TikTok. TikTok has been top of the app download charts for a long time. I don't know exactly how long, but a long time. Insta have just overtaken them. Insta have done a wonderful job at kind of turning the ship around a little bit. Other people might have perceptions and differing perceptions as to whether Instagram's gone in the right or wrong direction. But from a business perspective, they very much have. They've been on a mission to try and recover the time that they've lost. And what I mean by time is that many more people are spending more time on TikTok than they are on Instagram. And that's a disaster for a social media business. They need people spending time on the platform. And they're managing to recover that predominantly because Reels has been so successful for them. That's helped them overtake TikTok. Doesn't mean TikTok's going anywhere anytime soon, unless a ban happens, which I'm not sure that's going to happen, to be honest, but we'll see. We won't talk about that right now. But that does mean Insta is in a really strong position. We've got a lot of updates around Insta, so Insta's looking quite good. Interestingly, if you look on the left-hand side, which is about consumer spend, and I won't go through all of those, this is where TikTok wins out, and this is where TikTok is incredibly strong. Particularly, this relates to TikTok Shop. Lots of people spending money.
That makes a lot of sense. Yep.
Do you spend any time on TikTok, Jordan?
No, but the number of things that well, it's just funny though, because, just chatting with friends, like so many times I'm like, oh, this thing is cute. This thing is cool. It's like, oh yeah, I bought it on TikTok Shop. So I certainly believe that I can't spend any more money, so I can't hang out on TikTok.
Yeah, it's a thing. And I think that's really interesting to know if you're more like an e-com business as well, then
super smart.
There is a lot of spend. Like Instagram tried to make the shopping thing work and just couldn't. But it's taken a while for TikTok to make it work. It took off in China. It started now to take off in the UK, and it's starting to creep here into UK and Europe. But yeah, if I was an e-commerce brand, I would be looking quite heavily at TikTok Shop, to be honest.
I was just going to say quickly too, the thing that I love about these monthly social trends is, one, thank you, Andy, for putting all this together. So we don't have to. But two, it's interesting when you're talking about Instagram kind of being on the rise again. Like if you've been following along in these monthly recaps, it's interesting to see how platforms change. And so one of the things we always say is like, just because a platform is maybe like not doing as well at the moment, or like people are kind of shifting, don't jump ship, because you can do whatever you want, but you don't have to jump on every new platform as soon as it comes out. You don't have to leave every platform as soon as it's, seems like it's decreasing, because as you probably have seen too, like everyone's shuffling around all the time. So it's just interesting that Instagram is like at the top of that chart again. Exactly.
I think it's such a good call out, Jordan. Like in none of this are we going to say like, oh, do this and don't do that. It's always, take a step back, think about what's happening, think about what's makes sense for your available time and what's best for your business, and then make a decision from there, really. So yeah, same kind of guidance can be put around this particular thing, and I think this is particularly interesting. I spoke about time spent on Insta, but the time spent on Threads is very low. So Threads is growing, so it's a year old now, got 175 million users. Obviously they were one of the fastest apps to ever hit 100 million users from a standing start, which was great. So everyone was like, oh, what's Threads? Jumped on it straight away. But since then, the growth has kind of flattened out a bit. Doesn't mean it's going anywhere, but the biggest challenge is the attention problem, which we called it here. So as you can see from the screenshot here, As of June 24, users spend just 6 minutes on the app each day, compared to 23 minutes on X or 36 minutes on Instagram, right? So that means a great deal for us and the choices we make as
Mhm.
businesses. The longer people spend on an app, the more content they see, quite frankly. So the higher our chances are of being seen. So if we want our content to be seen and maximize the bang for our buck as far as like the platforms we use and the time that we've invested in creating our content, Threads doesn't look like the best investment right now. That being said, Threads is still the platform, well, probably other than X, and X is indexing more towards video. Threads is still the only platform where text only posts are
Yeah.
the ones that are getting the most attention. So if text based like social content you feel more comfortable with, I'm not saying Threads is the worst idea in those instances. If the format plays into your hands, maybe you can make it work, but just know that it's going to be harder and slower growth. And speaking with creators on Threads too, they're having a hard time of growing their accounts. And there's an obvious reason to that. More attention means more opportunity. So that's kind of my take on Threads. I don't know, Jordan, if you've got any thoughts on that before I move on.
No, that makes sense. And it's kind of funny, like talking about this being text-based, which, X used to be. I have always found myself spending the most time on the platforms that, how do I say this? Like that showcase the things I enjoy the most. So I'm like photos first. So Instagram has always been my favorite. Even when it was trending reels, I still mostly post images. That's just what I actually enjoy. So I think for anyone doing that too, like that you can kind of pick which platforms you're on based on what you like. So I like looking at threads. Like I always enjoy seeing people's opinions on like text-based platforms like that, but I don't have a lot to say, so I don't post a lot. Um, in that way, at least, like that's not my favorite way to communicate. So it's just kind of interesting.
I'm with you. I'm with you. And double clicking on this time spent, I've called this out before, and when you look at it across demographics, you can see how strong TikTok is. So even though Instagram are recovering lost ground against TikTok, the thing that TikTok is the strongest at is incredible at hooking users in. So it's very smart that you don't spend any time on TikTok because it suckers you in. You actually need to make a conscious effort to close the app, because I obviously have to look at it for work purposes,
Hmm.
and it's just so engaging. Unsurprisingly, it's then reflected in the time that people are spending on the platform. And the interesting thing is, because I hadn't seen it broken down this clearly before, when you look at different age demographics as well, all the way up to 54-year-olds, TikTok is winning. It's only until you get to 55 plus does Facebook then overtake TikTok, which I find absolutely fascinating. And we've long seen this. I've been reporting this for the last couple of years. It's like the demographics are getting younger, older and older, right? And TikTok. And that's typically the trajectory of most social platforms. They're new, they're trendy, and then very quickly they start getting adopted by people of Jordan's and my age, and then
And
a
they're
bit
not cool
older, and
anymore.
then they're not cool. Yeah, I think probably at the point that Jordan and I get involved, the kids go, screw that, we're onto something else. But I think this is really interesting when we're thinking about the platforms we might use to market our business. So even though TikTok might have slipped to number 2 in the App Store charts, you can see the time spent still represents great opportunity. And as a result, this is more anecdotally from my experience and through some other reports I've seen, engagement still is much higher on TikTok than it is on other platforms. Index is about 3 times higher on average than Instagram. So if we're struggling for engagement, i.e. likes, comments, interactions, that kind of stuff, TikTok is still winning out for that, for obvious reason, right? More time spent,
Hmm.
more content being seen, more opportunity for engagement. Cool. So that's what's happening at a macro level. Let's get into a bit more detail, and then we're going to go into some specific network updates. This isn't particularly social, but I think it's very important, especially
Yeah,
given everything that's happening in the world of AI, because Google is still, from a small business perspective, a very important like organic channel for us. Google are clamping
absolutely.
down on AI content, right? Because it's become incredibly easy to put out lots and lots of pages to hopefully rank for search terms. Now, if we're using AI heavily for that, Google is starting to penalize sites for doing it. So there's a bit more detail to this. It's definitely worthwhile reading if SEO is your thing and you want to try and get discovered on Google. Definitely worthwhile looking up this update a little bit more. But just know, and we're seeing this across social too, that I'll share in the next update, is like AI is incredible for efficiency, but also we need to make sure we've got the human element in it to ensure that
Absolutely.
quality remains high, right?
And I think that's a good point with obviously with AI because it's easier and faster, but I feel that way about social media in general, like just pushing things to have posts out there has never been my favorite like way to post myself, or I don't really like following accounts that do that. Like I'd rather post good things that make sense and work for the right reasons than just kind of throwing as much not great content out there,
Mhm.
hoping that'll do something better. Um, there's enough. There's enough being posted out there, and I like to kind of intentionally make better stuff. So
Yeah.
I'm this doesn't make me sad.
No, it doesn't. Quality reigns supreme here.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think what we're going to see, I've often had this debate of like quality versus quantity. We had that conversation like pre AI,
Hmm.
post AI. I think I'm indexing more towards quality, really.
Absolutely. Yeah, because I feel like there was, still some level of like a human element before that isn't
Mm.
necessarily there, which just makes it's so easy to be just basically irrelevant. So,
Yeah.
yeah, even if you are using AI, that's certainly not doesn't mean everything related to that is, you can still use it to like help get your thoughts out, help rewrite things, help create some of your visuals, but it's really easy to just kind of make for the sake of making, and Andy and I are both not into that.
Agreed. Agreed. But
Some
talking about
agreement in the
smart use.
chat. So yeah,
Ah,
let us know what you
good.
think.
Yeah. But like Gen AI does play a role. Now, this isn't actually
Yes.
necessarily an update, but I saw this campaign from Shake Shack, and I was like, I need to share this because it's cool and it balances the conversation that we were just having about like, is AI good or bad? And it's just not. The conversation is more nuanced than that, and this kind of shows the nuance. I've um I've long spoken about the opportunity that exists on Reddit, and it's very
Hmm.
hard to capture that opportunity on Reddit. Reddit is the place where it's kind of messy, it's like human interaction, there's a lot of noise and nonsense on Reddit, but it's also a gold mine of like customer insight. And we need to treat Reddit in a slightly different way, right? Because it's not just like a platform that we can just publish to, right? It's all about engagement.
Absolutely. Yeah.
However, there are some cool ways that we can use Reddit, and this is where AI is super, super powerful. So there is this Reddit-focused Gen AI chatbot called the Big Letbotsky. Interesting. To basically, I'll kind of skim this, where it scans 80,000 subreddits based on certain search terms that Shake Shack wanted to look for. And then that allowed Shake Shack to target ads to those specific subreddits that were talking about those specific things. So this is something that as a human, you just wouldn't have the capacity
Right.
to do that. That's where Gen AI is amazing at taking all of that messy information, making it sensible, making it salient, and making it something that a human can understand and then run ads against and have really relevant personalized messaging that we just wouldn't have been able to. And all that we would have been blind to all of that before. So that's where Gen AI is incredible for like those messy community platforms that allows us to really get a sense of what truly our customers are saying, what the kind of sentiment around our brand or our market is. And I think that's definitely something to think about in how we might use Gen AI moving forward.
Yeah, I think that's a great way is like using it as exactly your point, like using it to help like organize or help find things that would be like a really difficult manual process. And then you do, the human interaction after that. So you either use it to like help you with research or help you find the conversations you want to be in or things like that. And I think there are some Express add-ons that, are good at like just helping you like know things that are trending, like the TikTok add-on, things like that,
Mhm.
that use a version of AI to help you with like part of the process, and then you make you do what you're doing yourself after that. But that's how I like using it.
Yeah, research and understanding has never been easier, and
Absolutely.
I think that's
Yeah.
that's wonderful. Um, Thinking about like B2B, and I always like to look at these from a social perspective, like how can we use social to benefit our brands? And I saw this data from a software company that had analyzed lots of businesses that were selling to other businesses, so B2B, and about how social influences buying and decision making. I think this is
Oh,
something I'll always
interesting.
pay a lot of attention to, because quite often we see like selling to other businesses as like picking up the phone, making cold calls, that kind of stuff. Social plays a huge role in here. Like looking at LinkedIn influence outbound deals have a 26 higher conversion rate. The reason for that is that people start to gain a sense of trust. They see you in the feed, they connect with the brand, connect with the human behind it. And LinkedIn's influence in like buying and decision making is only getting bigger and bigger. I keep on seeing this, and to be honest with you, LinkedIn was a huge component of the startup that I co-founded
Yeah.
6-7 years ago into being acquired by Adobe. LinkedIn was a huge part of like the success of that. So yeah, I'm very bullish on that, and how brands can use their own kind of like personalities and bring the face of the company to the fore to build trust and grow influence. So yeah, always nice to see some data that supports it. Right then, let's get into some new features, shall we? So now we're all kind of data ready, clued up. We know what's happening in the world of social. Let's go ahead and see what's happening at a network level.
And this is
Now,
where we'll say again, just because we're talking about a platform does not mean you have to use it. This is us giving all the information we have, and then you pick you pick what you want to take. So don't get overwhelmed. You don't have to do it all.
there definitely, and I think some of this is really just like future consideration too.
Yeah.
Um, and I'll be honest, this makes me feel conflicted inside, right? Seeing this particular update. So Meta is going to enable influencers to create AI versions of themselves. So, if you're an influencer, the one thing that's very hard to scale is you get
Right.
lots of people chatting to you, lots of people asking you questions, which is great. Congratulations, you made it to influencer level, you're striking brand deals, people want to ask you lots of questions. And of course, you'd love to engage with your community and respond to them. The practical realities of that is pretty small. So how can you enable that? Well, create an AI version of yourself to answer the questions. And then this will then extend into other things that TikTok are doing as well, which is very soon you'll be able to create an AI version of yourself. So, you'll be able to have not just someone that can respond in a chatbot or an AI version of you in a chatbot, you'll be able to have a fully AI version of you creating content. So you don't need to film a video and take 14 different takes to film a video. You can get AI to do a perfect one. There's some upsides, there's some downsides. Looking at your face, Jordan, and like, you're a personality on social media. So I'd
I
love to know in the chat,
understand.
where
Yeah,
are
I'm
we with
curious what
this?
the chat thinks too. I understand everything you said about why this exists. I don't like it. I think the thing there, I mean, I fully understand. Yeah, exactly. If you're running a business, you can scale it by hiring people and doing all these things. And if your business or what you're doing is you. Um, but like for me, that doesn't feel better. You know what I mean? Like if someone is too busy to reply themselves, I would honestly rather have like their team like answer than an AI version of them, I think. And like on the one hand, if I could make a video and not shoot it a bunch of times, as you were saying, I fully understand that. I am just personally, and I could be wrong and everyone could feel um differently than that than me, and I might feel differently later, but I also kind of feel like one, the humanity of it is what's interesting, and two, I feel like this is going to go back to what we were just saying, which is like if my feed is becomes just a bunch of like perfect AI videos of influencers, like I don't know that I'm going to enjoy watching that. So, I don't know. Curious, yeah, I'm curious what folks think. Let us know in the comments because I'm
This
not excited, but
this is
we'll
definitely
see.
it's challenging. It is very challenging. It's intellectually challenging,
Yeah,
and I think this is the next dawn of social that we're entering into. So feel like it's going to get, sounds negative, but maybe worse before it gets better, because lots of
right,
people jump
right.
onto this as a potential to scale before there becomes, like, to your point, people just get fatigued with it because this seems all novel and new, and there's good opportunity to it. But yeah, thinking long term, yeah, I think there's some considerations, but yeah, very interesting to debate. Either way, we can't do anything with this now. Something to think about for future. And equally, Meta have updated the AI label, and we'd actually seen this from
Mhm.
Adobe customers as well, which had been a bit frustrating for them because some people had used generative fill and posted it to Facebook, and it's come up as like made with AI.
Yeah,
Whereas now that kind of made with AI sticker has changed to AI info, so we can have some information that what was used and how was this created. So I think that's going to be a really important marker. So I think this is the encouraging part to what we've just seen, is that the networks, whilst enabling us with some AI technology, not all of it we feel comfortable with, I understand that, but at least it will be balanced with the fact of, oh, I know that's AI. In the
and I
um,
oh, go ahead.
go, no, go for it.
Just I think that's really important because the range of what that can mean is pretty big. So like, if you use AI to like remove something in the background, personally, I want to know the difference between that and something being fully generated in AI. Like I think there is a real range. So I think this makes a lot of sense because just one blanket label is not truly to me not that helpful.
Yeah, I agree, and I think there's still work to do on this. And potentially this even becomes like the next generation of, like, when you see like paid partnership in Insta, you're just going to scroll
Right.
past it because like, I don't need to be pitched. Maybe it's just like a case of AI. Oh, that's actually one from Jordan herself, the human Jordan. So
Right.
I'm going to watch it.
Right.
So maybe it becomes like that. So either way, I think there's a lot the networks will need to do to try and manage this one out. But yeah,
Absolutely.
something to be mindful of. Right, Insta, lots happening in the world of Insta, and I imagine most people on this call be focused on Insta. So let's get into it. Instagram content's appearing more in Google search. There's an area on Google search called Google Perspectives, which surface content, basically news or social content,
Interesting.
and more Instagram content is appearing there. So not only is like social great for social, and I've always like had this view that social's like in a walled garden. So think carefully about investing all your time in social because you're only building here. I still have that view a little bit. Still think you should invest in your own properties, your email list, and all that kind of stuff. But it is wonderful to see that your content will appear in Google too. So I think that's a great opportunity. Or your content might appear in Google too, because as you can see, there's not a huge amount of space here and lots of competition. But when we're talking about news, and if you're kind of breaking news as part of your content strategy, there's a great opportunity for you to rank in Google perspectives there. We now also can embed images in Insta carousels, which we couldn't before. So that little heart shape is like a sticker of an embedded image in carousels. So now we can kind of overlay image on image directly in Instagram, gives us a bit more creative freedom on Instagram directly. But then, don't want to toot our own horns here, but you could have done that in Adobe Express already, much easier. So, hey, and you could have published it through Express. But
Adobe
either way,
Express. That's
yeah.
right.
Now, Instagram leaning into share rates. We didn't share this update last month because we didn't run an Adobe Live. So let me explain what this actually means. If anyone follows Adam Mazzari from Instagram, head of Instagram, definitely recommend following his channel on, following his account rather, on Insta. What he's pushing very hard is share rates. So your reels will go further if more people share them with others. Because what Instagram have seen is that a big driver of growth for them is when people share reels with their friends. So if I shared a reel and Jordan looked at it and Jordan's like, hey, that's funny, I'm going to share it to someone else, then that is a signal that Instagram takes very seriously in terms of the ranking of your content. Yes, other stuff is still likes are important, comments are even more important, and then share rates are even more important. So actually, if you look at these three engagements, see them as like a growing or an upward trajectory. So likes mean the least, still great, but they mean the least. Comments are a bit more, and share rates, like that is the utopia right now, and that's a big shift for Instagram. So hence why Insta are making that even bigger about and showing you the data related to share rates. And we might want to think about that in our content as to like the call to action, like if you like this, share it with a friend, that kind of thing. So just know, very important metric. That's probably the biggest algorithmic change that Instagram has made. Really important signal.
Yeah, we have a question too about saves. Is there an update on saves if they're important? I mean, I feel like it's always good. Like that certainly doesn't hurt, but do you happen to know if it's affected in the algorithm?
It counts as an engagement for sure, but I would put that in the same camp as a like. Really, it's a good signal, but what it doesn't do is do anything for the platform. So if you look at the things that, if you look at the interactions that do something for the platform, and let's be honest, we're all playing Instagram's game. We're playing their game for them to grow their platform. So being slightly cynical here, but it is what it is.
No, that's true. Yeah.
Like comments are good because people spend more time, have to spend more time on the platform to comment on it. So that's good. The other thing that's very important is watch time. So if people are watching to the end of your video, that's one thing I didn't talk about in engagements because I haven't got the stat here, but making sure people get to the end of your video, super, super important because that's about retention, and then obviously share rates. So the answer to the question is saves are one of the lower engagement benchmarks that you could use. So it's not a hugely influential in terms of your reach. The others are more so. But either way, don't tell people don't save your content. It's still good. But yeah, you might want to orientate towards something else. Cool. All right. I better speed up because I'm taking far too long going through some of these. Cool. We can now put a open to collaboration notification in our Insta status, which is great. I love collabs. Jordan, you use them a lot.
I love collabs. Yep.
Fantastic way to reach more people. It's one of my favorite ever features on social because tag someone else in, you get double your reach, right? So it goes to both your accounts. So now you can actually collaborate with more than 3 people too, which is great.
That's
great
cool.
to do group stuff. And now you can say like, hey, I'm open to a collab. Fantastic way of working with others. This is an important one. Appear to be rolling out a 5 hashtag limitation. I've long had a big personal distaste of having loads of hashtags in Insta posts, especially ones that are not relevant. Putting in 25, 30, Instagram has said themselves, putting in 25, 30, especially putting them in the comment, doesn't do anything. You really should be limiting them to a handful of relevant ones. Insta even testing out like actually forcibly limiting them. But Insta themselves say a 3 to 5 is optimal when we've seen the same reflected in data. So choose wisely, don't try and hack it. There's no point. Nice and simple, just relevant ones.
Cool.
Instagram, sticking with short form content too. So again, from Adam Mazzari, whereas TikTok are going towards 10-minute videos and they're going longer and longer because they're going after YouTube. They have very much said, nope, we're sticking short form. So whilst they have been testing, some people can do 3-minute reels. Most of us mere mortals just get 90 seconds. Don't expect that to change. And again, 30 to 60 seconds is where it's at. Talking of where it's at, hopefully you can see this slide. In the professional dashboard in Instagram, it's going to give you some best practice tips. Most of these we know, but I think they're just good reminders. This is just good practical stuff, sensible stuff. So, make creating reels part of your routine. So consistency, focus on deeper engagement, really share rates, what we're talking about, relatable as possible. Yeah, we get that. First 3 seconds count, we get that. The hook, check your timing, 30 to 60 seconds performs the best, as we were just saying. Use relevant hashtags. I think we're getting a message about hashtags, trend and trending audio too. So I think this is just, we all know this already, but good reminders of best practice stuff. And yeah, save yourself from looking at all like the gurus and about the growth hacks. Sensible stuff, relevant content, well-chosen hashtags, high quality, quality over quantity. Then that gives you the best chance of success. Alrighty, Facebook. This is very cool. Auto A/B testing. This isn't available to everyone. This is being tested. What that allows you to do for your reels, it allows Facebook. It will test different versions of your caption. It'll actually create them for you. Different versions of your caption will serve that reel to the same bunch of people, and whichever is the winner out of those captions, of course the video stays the same, will be served to more people. That usually had been reserved for like advertising.
Yeah.
That is super powerful for organic content. So yeah,
That's
good
super
win.
Cool.
Broadcast channels come to Facebook. Before I talk too much about this, this is reserved for anyone with over 10,000 followers. So the kind of level is quite high here. But broadcast channels, super powerful. If you do have over 10,000 followers and you have a great community, broadcast channels are very powerful, because it means that, in the same way, it works like a WhatsApp group. Ultimately, people will get pinged whenever you share a message. Wonderful for like opting people into like updates on your business or your community, that kind of thing. Broadcast channels have been working very well on Instagram and Facebook. And definitely something to consider if you've got the appropriate size audience.
Quick question. Errol's asking, is there any cost for the Facebook A/B testing, or is it just not widely available yet?
Just not widely available yet, but cool. They're testing it, so it'll be coming out soon. But yeah, it'll be available, which is very cool.
Yeah.
Nice, good question. Thanks for clarification. Auto reshare reels as stories, pretty simple stuff. You'll see this across all of Meta's properties, Facebook, Insta, Threads, etc. They are really encouraging cross-platform sharing. Never been easier to repurpose our content. So as much as we can, we really should do it. It looks like, because they're pushing it so much, they're rewarding people that share across different channels with higher reach. They really want, content to proliferate, which is wonderful for us, really. And Facebook also now has the collaboration option, and you can invite people on desktop too. So if Jordan and I were going to be collaborating on Facebook, like Jordan and I often spend time in the same Facebook group for Adobe Express users, and then we can collaborate together. So that way content goes to both of our Facebook communities as well. So wonderful way of extending the reach. Basically, time saver, and this has always been my number one hack to social media growth. Work with others, because you won't grow any faster than when you work with someone else. Mm-hmm. LinkedIn, only one update for LinkedIn, so we can keep it simple, and doing well to get us back on time here. Rolling out sponsored newsletters. If you've got a newsletter and you want to raise the awareness of it, you can now sponsor it to drive your subscriptions of that.
That's cool.
Think about it mindfully though, because it is very useful. A great way of getting in front of your target audience. But just know, with a LinkedIn newsletter, you don't get the emails of the people that subscribe. Right. And hence the reason my newsletter is on Substack, not
Hmm.
LinkedIn, but LinkedIn, it's so tempting to put it to LinkedIn because it gives you such great reach with your ideal audience rather than having to link people back to a Substack. So pros and cons, something to worthwhile weighing up. One update on X, because X is crazy land at the moment, so less spoken about it, the better. But they have come out and said that usage is growing again. Now, bear in mind, this is data coming from X, so we always take that with a fistful of salt, if we're honest. But it is interesting to see. I looked at some like independent verification of this, so there has been some improvement in some of X's metrics. One thing to note on X is that video is driving the predominance of their growth. With people spending more time on the platform, it's related to video. So if you do have a community on X and video is your thing, there's still opportunity there because they're pushing video quite hard. So that's probably the main takeaway from that. Then on to TikTok. This is actually a really useful bit of guidance and framework that they shared. So if anyone's keen to level up TikTok, I thought this was actually really smart. So based on the data that they've seen, they've come up with 3 ways that brands can be more successful on the platform. Call it how to be braver in 2024. So typically looking at it in 3 ways is one about like showing unique and authentic behind the scenes takes of the business. So like piquing curiosity. And this is the way like TikTok has worked really well of like brands taking down that corporate veil of like super polished and really showing a kind of more raw and real side to a brand. So that's worked. Then this, I quite like the title of this, storytelling unhinged. So,
That's
you
so
know, if you,
funny.
yeah, and I think this has worked quite well. You'll see that's become popular on TikTok, like the street style interview where people are
Yes,
going up,
yes.
you know. So that kind of unexpected way of telling a story has worked really well on TikTok. Takes brands need to be a bit braver to embrace that kind of thing, but it has worked very well. And then bridging the trust gap, which is more about using kind of more native TikTok specific language and stuff. How not to be too corporately locked down. And I think if we got most small businesses and solopreneurs on this call, that won't be a problem. But I think this is generally useful guidance in like, you know, having a bit more fun, taking ourselves less seriously on the platform and not worrying too much about production value. Yeah, still high quality like footage, but the production value can be a bit more raw. So that's the take on that. Now, this is a very important one. I think this is so powerful
Yeah, this is cool.
for yeah, exactly, for like local businesses. So you already had like location tags which you can add to your posts, which you'll know across other platforms too. But now they've added more detail here. So if you're looking at Boston, it's now organized into food and drink, things to do, hotels, parks. So a fantastic way of like, it's kind of like local SEO on TikTok. And again, that goes back to the more kind of like B2C approach of TikTok is very powerful. You like combine things like TikTok Shop with this kind of local search. I think you've got a really powerful platform for small business here. New AI chatbot called Genie. That is going to help you like discover new content. And again, this is going to make discovery of businesses very different. I don't have any more insights on this, so we'll just kind of keep it as a FYI for now. But will people start engaging with that more than search on TikTok, which is used very heavily? People are using TikTok more like a search engine than a social media platform. So how will this chatbot change that? And again, I think this plays into brands' hands really, really quite well. Just goes to show like the intent around TikTok around, you know, helping businesses get discovered. You can now comment on a story or comment on a post and make it a story straight away. Great way of like repurposing content. So I think that's a really cool one. Very importantly, you can save your content without a watermark, so you can reuse it.
Oh, nice.
You can do a custom thumbnail now too on
That's
TikTok, which
also
is
so
great to,
nice.
yeah,
Yes.
capture. You can make that on Express as well if you want to. Fantastic way of making sure you stand out in the feed. And now, if you look at any creator on TikTok, you can look at the popular content and look at get great inspiration as to what's worked well for them. So very simple, just a popular
That's
button.
cool.
Very, very useful. I've spoken about threads already. Now let me just how I'm going to go through. Nope, I'm going to get through those last four because honestly, I think that's enough for today. Didn't make it quite to the end.
It's
But
always a
let's,
little bit of a race. But we
yeah,
were
too
like,
much chatting.
there's not even that much today. No, there's
I
always
know.
a lot.
Yeah, let's give it a bit of a summary because we only missed about four updates there, and I think you'll live. But like
Yeah.
repurposing content across other platforms because they're all moving towards video. Meta are really trying to encourage repurposing, so definitely lean into that. We've spoken lots about Gen AI, about like the positives and negatives around it, so expect more of that coming to social. And then we spoke heavily also about the collabs thing, which is incredibly important. And one thing I also should have put in here is around like leaning into some of the local search functionality that we've been talking about. So yeah, lots of opportunity, but realistically, there's just some underlying like themes that govern everything that's happening in the world of social. So yeah, now you are up to date.
Thank you so much for that, Andy. That was amazing. Thanks again for doing all the research for us. And we have some gratitude in the chat too. This this is available. You can rewatch it if you missed anything. We'll be back soon. So thanks so much for tuning in. And if you have any questions at all, Andy is Andy Art Lambert. I'm at Jordan Danae Ellis, and feel free to ping us anytime. So thanks so much for joining us, everyone. We'll see you soon.
Thanks so much. Hope you found it useful.
Bye.
Bye bye.